Roll call.
Stephanie Hausch.
Yes.
Dan Yorks. Jennifer Revolick.
Yes.
Nicole Segura.
Yes.
Josie Shattuck.
Yes.
Kristen Thacker.
Yes.
Quorum present.
Next we'll do the pledge of
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, thank you. Well, today's a really exciting day. We welcome back all of our staff. So that was a fun morning, and they are ready to welcome back our students. But gosh, was it just last week? It feels like it was weeks ago. Yeah. Last week, we invited all of our new kindergartners to our playground with popsicles, and it was a great turnout. It was the first time we've done this, and it will be annual. We already were talking about what can we do for all other grade levels to get them in the building and on the grounds before school starts. We had 50% of our families come that day, which was great. It was a really hot day, so kids were really enjoying all of those popsicles. I do have a little interview from Kaden. Unfortunately, I don't have sound except for my computer.
What
here.
you're excited about for kindergarten? You like playing outside. What has been your favorite recess equipment? Riding the school bus? You're excited about riding the school bus? That's exciting. Are you excited about meeting new friends? Yes. Did you have a good summer?
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for telling me what you're excited about. I can't wait till the first day of school. I'll see you in a couple weeks, okay?
They were so cute. It was fun. I interviewed a bunch of kiddos, and the most exciting thing was the playground. That's what they were looking forward to, and riding the bus. So I asked one little guy, "Are you looking forward to math?" And he looked up at his mom like, "Why is she asking about math?" But it was a really great day. Thank you to Jessica and Julie for organizing that, and Missy and Sue for helping out all day long. So thank you.
And the turnout was pretty significant.
It was great. 50%. We had 42 students and their families, so it was great.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, next we'll move on to public participation. During each regular and special open meeting of the board, any person may comment to or ask questions of the board, subject to reasonable established time constraints. The board listens to comments and questions during public participation. The board's response to comments or questions is managed through policy 3:30, chain of command, and not by the board during the public meeting. Tonight we have several attendees at our meeting, and nobody has signed in to address the board this evening. Thank you all for coming.
Hi.
Hi
I
there.
did.
Oh.
Was there another form?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you for raising your hand.
You're welcome.
Just a moment.
No, you're fine. That is correct, yes.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have Ophelia staff wishing to address the board tonight. Ophelia, you're welcome to come forward.
Oh, absolutely.
And we will you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Perfect. So, good evening. My name is Ophelia Stack. My son will be entering kindergarten. I know I kind of have shared my concerns back from May with the extended care, because I don't have the pleasure of being a stay-at-home mom and, being there for my son for pickup and drop-off. YMCA has been a disaster from May. Like, I have to plan about two months ahead of time in order to plan childcare, just like most of the families that I have met in this community. Nobody has called me back. They just did a couple weeks ago with the help of a board member here. And they told me, please come in. They can help you at any time at the YMCA. So I did, and lo and behold, nobody could help me there either. They were very honest. They said, we're not sure about the process, but fill out a packet for your son. I refused to do so just because I am not going to be trustworthy of a big organization like that to take care of my son before and after school. And it's just unreasonable. I did get a hold of the executive director there, but still no feedback whatsoever. Like I said, I wish I had the pleasure to be at home, but it's been very disappointing, like as a mom, and it's just like, I was excited because I found an option, but now with the help of Mrs. McKenzie, I have been able to navigate another solution, so I hope it does help. With that being said, I have received no mailings from the school district. My neighbors 2 houses down receive all the mailings. I have yet to receive one. So that's kind of concerning too, because it's not that big of a difference. Like, I'm able to see my neighbor and she's like, hey, did you get this today? Nope, not one thing. So if I could help navigate that, I would greatly appreciate it, because I know that's been a big thing in regards to connecting to our community, and I have felt so disconnected. I'm nervous about my son coming here with the help of some administrators in this building. I hope he has a great year, but I am nervous. I am very, very nervous. But thank you.
Thank you for coming and speaking. Okay, that concludes our public participation. May I have a motion to approve the second reading and adoption of Board Policy Press 122, additions, deletions, and changes?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments on the drafts that were shared? This is something that we do regularly, reviewing board policy. There are several versions that are reviewed as we review them. I'm saying none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes regular and executive session minutes from July 21st, 2026, regular meeting, bills payable, treasurer's report, and personnel action report?
So moved.
Any questions on the consent agenda this evening? All right, seeing none, roll call.
Nicole Sabura.
Yes.
Kristen Thacker.
Yes.
Stephanie Hausch.
Yes.
Jennifer Regola.
Yes.
Josie Shattuck.
Yes.
Motion carried.
May I have a motion to approve the Jazz One Gen Conference invitation field trip to Louisville, Kentucky?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we will discuss this. Any questions?
Well, just because there's board policy and it's never been brought to us about field trips in the past.
Yes.
So this is something new that we haven't paid attention to as a board. So I think it's important that we are diligent with following policy and keeping on top of that.
Yeah, so just so everyone knows, any field trip that's requested over 200 miles or overnight has to be board approved. So working with Jeff for this band one, he has submitted it with as much information in regards to what they're doing, the cost for students, the cost of any for district, for your approval tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. Are there any questions regarding this particular trip that board members have? I think my only question is regarding chaperones. The chaperones for the trip, historically, we've used staff for chaperones, is that correct?
For, yes,
For trips, overnight
Yeah,
trips?
for overnight trips, yes.
Okay, great. And for this particular trip, that could be an option, in addition to parent volunteers.
Yeah, so if we did any any chaperone would have to be background checked. So whether it's a staff member, obviously are always background checked. If a parent was to do that, we would also do the same type of background check that we would do on our teachers to do an overnight trip. So that's normal too, just to have parents as chaperones as well.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. Yes, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Motion carried. That's okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the parent-student handbook for 2026-2027?
So moved.
Second.
So this is something we do every year. The handbook is revised and updates are made as needed. Are there any questions or comments from the board regarding the changes this year?
Have we ever in the past had like a committee with community members to give input on the parent and student handbook?
It's a great question. In my time on the board, we have not.
Maybe that's something we should consider.
Yeah, I think that could be a really great idea. We've seen a significant amount of increase from community members with participation in things. So, yeah, for next year, I think that
We can definitely put a parent advisory meeting together.
great. Any other questions or comments?
There's not, the one thing I just wanna highlight, Jordan and Jessica worked through the IPA student handbook model, so that's not something that we normally did in the past, and so that makes sure that we're really aligned with our school policy as well, so everything kind of aligns very nicely. So I just wanna thank them for that work, getting that done at the end of the year into the summer.
Thank you.
They can, and this is on our website. correct?
Yes, we will post it on the website.
Is there maybe like an opportunity, I mean, like in the future, that maybe we have like a parent university essentially for new incoming parents to kind of be able to navigate the, just all of the different systems that we have here, Skyward, the website, where to find things, like what's important to know, for the student handbook, because not everybody has time to like read it cover to cover to be able to, I mean, they're trusting us that they're sending their child for us to take care of, and like it's kind of like the needs to know and then like would like to know, just to maybe provide them with that, and then just kind of provide them with guidance on how to navigate the different systems that we have, like how to sign up for parent teacher conferences. Like we do like push that out with different communications, but I think just actually having them come in and like walk through it, they might be more inclined to want to be here.
That is also something that the child care information could be available on.
Yeah.
The primary and then potential alternatives. in terms
Almost
of
like a
care.
registration night too, like part of that, and then we can, if we stay with YMCA or whatever, then we can be there too to help parents to kind of alleviate some of the stress.
It's kind of like a back to school bash almost you could put together with
Yeah.
some informational things and trainings and stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else regarding the handbook? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried right now. Great. Okay, let's have a discussion about public notice hearing for the tentative budget. I will pass that over to you.
I'm actually gonna turn this over to Dr. Bailey, just to talk about our steps in putting our public notice about our tentative budget hearing for next month.
So look, so we're required to have a budget prepared 30 days prior to a public hearing. In our case, we made sure and we put it out even further. We actually approved it internally for posting on August 14th. So it's been posted. And at least the notice is posted, and if anyone would like to come in and check out the budget, projected budget for next year, we have it in the district office, which is located now where the health office is. kind of are in the elementary building. And you're absolutely free and welcome and encouraged to come in to look at, ask questions, and that goes for the board as well. And then we will have a public hearing at the next board meeting, where anybody who wants to say anything can say it. No questions will be answered, because that's not what the hearing is for. It's just to hear what the public has to say. And then the board will vote up or down on the budget. We have to have it submitted to the state by September 30th. And then and we do that by uploading it to ISBE, to IWAS. And then they will publish it from there relative to like use it for the state report card and other things. So, any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I want to mention that our next board meeting is scheduled September 21st, right here at 7 p.m. And that is the same thing that we will have that public hearing. Okay. Any other questions or comments on that? Great. May I have a motion to approve communication consulting services with Allerton Hill Communications effective September 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2027?
Second.
Okay. Could you to the reason for this contract, please?
Yeah, so I think you have been working with Allerton Hill from maybe February on a monthly basis. So we have been working closely together on our social media, our newsletters, making sure that they're aligned out. We've recently finished our crisis communication handbook as well as communication plan. We are in the midst or the beginning of revamping our entire website so it's easier for parents and families to navigate and so that we can find information quicker. And I just think in how we've been functioning as on a month-to-month basis, we get a variety of team members versus just having a set team for us to say, we have a contract, this is what we're gonna be working on the rest of the year. So my recommendation is that we just solidify that relationship with them and so that we can continue to move forward and get all of the work done in our communications.
It sounds like moving forward with this contract, we'll have more streamlined, consistent, higher quality.
Yes, absolutely.
Any questions?
Is there a cost difference in the?
It's still the $5,000 a month.
Okay.
And if at any time we want to say we no longer need them, we just need a 30-day notice.
So the contract can be broken.
And I think it's important to keep them on as we're working through all these transitions, to keep consistency, to help with the rebranding and.
Yeah, I think in terms of like our financial task force that we'll
Yes.
talk about tonight and what our next steps are, it's really important that we have. She's been attending all of our Gia Harrison has been attending all of our financial committee meetings online and listening and helping craft all those messages. Yeah.
Do you envision us needing to work with Allerton Hill beyond June 30th of next year? It's hard to say, I know.
Oh, this is like day 22. My hope is not. I hope she's not listening
Nope,
right now.
no problem. And not because of their quality of service, but great. Okay, great. Any other questions or comments? All right. All in favor, I'm sorry, roll call.
Stephanie Hausch. Yes. Daniel Jennifer Regola.
Yes.
Nicole Sedora.
Yes.
Kristen Thacker.
Yes.
Josie Shattuck.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Great, thank you. Next we'll move to the superintendent report. I'll turn that back over to Dr. Larson.
Oh, great. I'm not sure how the superintendent report got really lengthy this evening, but a lot of good stuff. The first thing we'll start with, every month we just report on our FOIA report. So this month we had 6 FOIA requested. 4 of the 6 came from a single requester. We actually haven't received our monthly, we get our bills usually at the end of each month, so I haven't gotten the month bills for our FOIAs this month. And then 0 requests were denied. Jackie had fulfilled all of those at this time. Next up is a board vacancy. This week, Rebecca Jenkins resigned from the Prairie Grove Board of Education due to scheduling conflict with board meetings in the district where she serves as a superintendent. We are extremely grateful for her service on the board and her dedication to our district. We are working on setting dates, and I think we have them tentatively, but we're going to go back probably in closed session tonight and just finalize the dates. But all residents are encouraged to apply to fill the vacancy. We will be sharing a link for application instructions to the website later this week. More information will be sent out tomorrow in our district newsletter as well in terms of the timeline. But tentatively, we have the application deadline is September 11th. Interviews will be held September 21st, and the goal is to swear in a new member that evening at the board meeting. Any questions? Next is, oh, geez, what I just missed my screen. Sorry about that. No, stop. The next thing is just talking about board meeting agenda planning, and this is really for the board. I shared with you a draft of each month of the things that are happening on a yearly basis, and just really want to be transparent about the things that we need to be working on each month. These are a lot of school code and legal dates and things that we have to do. If there are things that we as a district want to add to, this would be a great place for us to add to them. I just wanted to kind of bring this to your attention today, and then maybe next board meeting we can talk more specifically about each month. But this kind of really shows, you can see that next month, like we talked, Dr. Bailey was talking about, we'll be doing the public hearing. Usually, depending on district audits, we could be bringing back our audit results in September. It's usually between September and November, depending on when they finish the audit and when they get the information back. We'll present to you that month the teacher salary benefits report that's required by EIS. And then looking at different policies, will be more policy hearings. And then that will be a time also that we have to review minutes of closed session report determination of that in open session. So this can kind of help guide all of us in terms of like what the things are coming up each month that we need to just be prepared for.
This is extremely helpful.
Yeah.
Incredibly helpful. Thank you.
Yes. And if you have things that you can bring to us as they arise or change, obviously we can absolutely do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And then one of the practices we could do at the end of maybe the board meeting is just review, like here's the upcoming things, are there any other things that we want to talk about?
Thank you for understanding.
Yeah.
Is this something that would be on the board section of the school website, or is there just
Absolutely, yeah.
just what happened in the
Yeah, we definitely.
once we finalize?
Okay, the next thing, this morning, we were able to kick off a new school year with all of our teachers and really starting to share our goals. And I just wanted to take a moment and briefly go through how goals are created in a school district. And that really starts at the top from a strategic plan all the way to the classroom. And so hopefully, I received some feedback from teachers who are like, thank you so much. I really see the vision and see how it comes from the board all the way to the classroom for students. And that's really what the goal that the administrative team wanted to put together this summer. So as I've mentioned in previous board members, our strategic plan is based around 5 areas, focused on student learning, environment, family and community partnerships, financial resources, and safe emotional learning. So when we take those, the next kind of layer that we have are my specific goals, and they're not any different than those 5 areas, but they're kind of put into 3 categories. And just like I told the teachers today, yes, I would fail in a class because I have so many words on my slide. I know that, but I'll print these out if anyone wants their own copy. But my goals are really based around a pocket of student performance and achievement gap. So really looking at all of our students, where are they individually at, and how do we ensure that they're growing at the rate that makes them proficient at their grade level. The next is a balanced budget and resource stewardship. And that's really focused on implementing and developing a balanced budget. And you're gonna hear more about our finances after our goals here tonight, but that's something that we've already started in June with our financial committee. And then lastly is community and stakeholder engagement. So really based around relationships. And something that I really talked heavily about with our staff today was, if you don't have relationships and you don't have trust and you don't have belief in people, you can't achieve any of those other things, right? No one is going to want to work alongside you, help you out if they don't have those relationships. So it's really important to me to build those relationships within the community for all stakeholders. And I'll give a little plug for my first Grounds for Conversation is coming up next week. And so if you haven't signed up to join one of those, please do. It'll be a time that you can get to know me a little bit. You can have an opportunity to share your concerns and your celebrations about our district. So then next we have our strategic plan, then the superintendent goals, and then we go down to district-wide goals. And I'm really proud of our administrative team this summer. They worked really hard in July. We all had to get to know each other as a new team and start building that relationship, but really talking about where our teachers and our students and our families are currently at and what matters the most and how do we get there. And so we had come down to four area goals, really based around professional learning, family engagement, ready to learn, and that's one of my favorites, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then our goal around our student services. So when we talk about professional learning communities, that's just a real big educational word. We call it PLCs. It's the way we are in terms of how do we collaborate with each other? How do we look at student data? How do we set goals? How do we continuously be consistent on what we're doing each and every day to ensure that students are making the gains that they deserve, right? How do we meet their needs? And when we talk about professional learning communities, it's building that collaborative nature and building the capacity of our teachers to be amazing so our students walk in and they learn. So that is really, it is a student achievement goal, but it's based, again, teams building relationships, looking at data, how do we make a difference, and then how do I do that in my classroom for students to achieve. Next, family engagement. Just like I spoke about relationships with stakeholders, it is really important. The data shows students and families who are more engaged have better attendance, have better achievement outcomes, and are more willing to collaborate when things are tough. And so we want to make sure that we are engaging with our families, and that's all teachers. And this is a really hefty goal. You'll see it says 100% of our teachers, 100% of our teachers, and we said this morning, will attend at least 3 after-school events. And they'll be sending home weekly newsletters. Our principals send home weekly newsletters. Our district sends home a monthly newsletter after our board meeting. So the more consistent we can be about our communication and transparent, the more connected people will feel from home and school. Ready to learn. So this is really important. If I'm not ready to learn, if you're not ready to learn, nothing actually happens in the classroom. And so getting students to be ready to learn, and what does that mean? It means if they're dysregulated, like they're having a morning, like how do we get them to be calm and to be ready to learn? And so that's just a variety of different behaviors and establishing what's an expected behavior. And when we don't have an expected behavior, then how do we respond to that in a positive, restorative way so that we can get kids back into the classroom as quick as possible with little disruptions to their and others' learning. And so when we were talking about this morning with the entire staff, you could see the heads nod like, yes, we all know as adults that when kids aren't regulated and feeling themselves, they're not ready to learn, and it's hard to get through. And so our number one thing is to build those relationships with kids, make sure that they're ready in a safe space to learn, and then we can get to learning. And then lastly is a goal around our student services. We've had a lot of changes in our Department of Student Services. We are super excited that we have a new director, Leanne Miller, who was announced last month. And we're going to be doing some significant auditing just of our program and how do we service students with IEPs and 504s, and are we doing it in the best capacity? What training does our staff need? What materials maybe are we missing that we need to implement? So we just have a lot of things that we're going to be doing, and by the end of the year, the goal is that we have a complete student service handbook for parents, that they understand what are the options and services here at Prairie Grove, and for teachers about how to service our students in the best capacity that they can. That was a lot of information. So what goes next is our building principals are working with their teams, their grade level centers on then what does that look like for first grade? So here are 4 goals in the district-wide, but what does that look like for first grade? What does that look like for 5th grade? What does that look like for 8th grade? And they will start to set their team goals and grade level goals. So really excited about just the alignment of where we're going and the roadmap ahead. Any questions on our goals?
It's exciting.
It is really exciting.
Great to
Thank you.
see. So much fun.
Really, really great to see.
Next is our financial planning task force. I first want to just thank, I see a lot of our task force members in the audience today. And since this is a formal board meeting, when I'm presenting and if you say, Vicki, oh, you should have said this or you should have said that, if you could send me an email, then I'll share that with the board because it's not a discussion center, but I don't want to miss anything if you think that's something that I missed or you want to reiterate. So just to give a little background for those of you maybe are new to our financial planning task force, we convened in June of 2026 to address the district's structural deficit or structural operating deficit and to bring the community and staff perspective into what was going on with our budget. We had, I believe, over 35 community members apply to be on the committee. That was quite a large group, so we had to narrow that down.
Some people
From other communities too. Thank you. We narrowed that down to 16 community members who served on the task force, and we've had 6 really well-attended meetings with a lot of great conversation. So what that committee was charged to do was to review the district's financial position, evaluate potential solutions, and then provide some recommendations to me to share with the school board tonight. So that's what we're going to be doing. So what contributed to the structural deficit? Now, over the last couple of months, Dr. Bailey has provided several PowerPoint presentations on where we're at, but I'm just going to give the bullet points of what we have discovered through our committee. So some of the things that contributed to that deficit was inflation and rising costs, health insurance costs rising well beyond the projections, a prior year tax levy reduction that left ongoing revenue on the table, increased salary and benefits through negotiation of collective bargaining agreements, 4 additional staff members added in the FY25 school year outside of what was originally budgeted. And when we talk about teacher positions, it's usually with all compensation and benefits package is about 75 to 80,000 a person. So when you think about FTEs, we think that number. Also, that included some outside contractual employees that were hired. We've had significant growth in our special education enrollment and staffing needs, and 2023 bond issuance adding nearly 900,000 to the annual deficit with no identified funding source. So those were kind of the root causes of where we are today. So when we talk about the recommendations tonight, I want to just talk about how the committee looked and evaluated them. They first looked at the financial yield, so what was the magnitude of that dollar impact, or the new revenue generated. 2, student impact, to degree of which recommends students' classroom experience. So how much is this going to affect our students on a daily basis? 3 was the feasibility of implementation. There are some things when we talked about it was like, yes, but we can't do that because of this. So we talked a lot about feasibility, and some of those things will come out tonight. And then community acceptability, really anticipating the level of community and stakeholder support in some of these recommendations. So that's when we were looking at all of that, the things that the committee was looking at. At any moment, if you all need me to stop and repeat or ask questions, feel free to do so. So I want to just kind of state before we get into the specific recommendations, just to talk about them. We group them by focus. I don't want anyone to think that they're in order of, this is the first thing we do, this is the second thing we do, this is the third thing. They're grouped by focus areas. They all carry potential outcome. And then these are just recommendations and not a decision. So just want to be very clear on those things. So the first area that we looked at was structural reconstructing. That's a lot. That was a big word. And major revenue efforts. So there are 5 things I'm going to talk a little bit about. And when we talk about the estimated number, that's what it could be up to. There's some factors obviously in that in regards to specific positions or not. But the first one, the conversation was about combining and or reducing administrative offices. So what is the feasibility of a single pre-K-8 structure versus having an elementary school and a middle school, junior high? On top of that, also exploring if there's options with neighboring smaller districts to share special services such as HR, curriculum, SPED, or finance. So if we were to do any of those things in terms of reducing to a pre-K-8 building, it could be a savings up to $383,000. The next was looking at our class size adjustments. In our current contract, our collective bargaining contract, there is class size max. So we cannot go over a certain amount of number of students per grade level. And those max are 27 in grades 1 and 2, 30 in grades 3 and 5, and 33 in 6th through 8th grade. So if we were to go to the max grade levels and reduce teachers, so increase class size, we could potentially save $445,074. The next recommendation was reevaluating and reducing non-mandated classes such as band, family consumer science, STEAM, STEM, and Spanish. If we looked at reducing half of those, it would be about $296,000 savings. The reason why I say half, there are some contractual things in our contract that teachers have to have plan time. And so in order to have plan time, that's where co-cues come into place. The students are going to co-cues and the teachers have that time to then collaborate and plan. So we I wouldn't say that we can't remove them all. We would have to really look at what would that schedule look like for a teacher to make sure that we're meeting their contractual obligations as well. But the committee had recommended that we look at that as well. The next structural major revenue would be a referendum campaign. And so at this time, the task force recommended that only this be looked at after all other options have been considered or exhausted. And then lastly, in this focus area was compensation and benefits restructuring. So in that area, we kind of lumped freezing administrative salaries short-term, and then long-term reducing them. And what that means is if someone exits, when we hire someone, we're hiring them at a lower cost. And then review just overall employee spending around benefits and other recognition, appreciation costs. When we look at that, that would be a potential savings of $99,082. Any questions on those?
Hypothetically, if these were all part of change, because I would say, we would just maybe we could isolate to one decision of change, what would be the cumulative savings with all of those?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
So the next focus area is really around operational co-ops and asset management. So some things I don't have a number to, right? Because we have to have further discussion. So for instance, the first one on here is talking about evaluating selling district-owned land. So looking at our property and deciding, is that something that the board would like to consider, is looking into how could we sell part of our land and use that directly towards decreasing our debt reduction. The next one is a county-wide sales tax, and that is to really explore a dedicated local sales tax option to support district operations or debt service. The one thing about the county sales tax is that you have to get all of the county school districts on board to do the same thing. So that would start in a conversation, maybe at the superintendent levels, going to our county superintendent meetings and talking about, is that something that other school districts and their boards would be interested in talking about? Because we would all have to make that decision together.
How long does it take to, like, once those conversations start happening, how long does that take to get on? I'm assuming it's something that needs to be worked on.
Yeah, that I don't know. I can look into that though. And then last is to pause any major non-essential capital projects until we're stable. And right now we don't have any capital projects planned. As everyone is aware, we just finished our parking lot. So. Yeah.
Yes, with funds from the last.
Yes. Focus area 3 is talking about fees and contracts. So currently, we don't have any registration fees and very minimal activity fees for our students. So that is something that we could potentially be looking at. I did, just as reference quickly, this is just a comparison of student fees in some of our surrounding districts. So Crystal Lake 47, Fox River Grove, Cary 26, and Harvard. So when we talk about pre-K and preschool fees, so there's two different things when we talk about. When we have preschool for all or an at-risk program, that's a free program for students. But then also we have spaces for students to come in preschool that maybe not qualified for that, but they're paying tuition. And we do charge our families $230 a month for 4 days of tuition, and 5 days is $300 a month for our tuition. So that brings in roughly about $60,000 a year in revenue from our ECE program. Beyond that, we don't currently have a registration fee or a technology fee. We do have our student fees for like band are $50. We have extracurricular activity fees, $50, but $150 max for any family. So if you have multiple kids and they're all in something, the max you would pay for activities would be $150. And you can see, and I'm sorry, I know it's not large enough, but Crystal Lake, just as reference, Crystal Lake 47's registration fee for an elementary student is $135 a year. Fox River Grove is $167, Cary is $168, and then Harvard is $170. So just some comparisons just to start thinking about what other districts are doing.
When did registration fees go away?
I can find that answer out.
Yeah, no, just like some history of like why you decided to go away from registration fees. what was the exact registration fee? Was there a cap for multi-student families? There's some things that are in here, like I noticed that band has to pay, like they have a fee for band, but they don't have a fee for a PE uniform. I think it's important to think about like the equity in the fee that we're charging holistically.
And when we want to, if you want to, I kind of put a quick spreadsheet together just as a reference. So like this year, we don't have fees. So when we talk about fees, we're bringing in a revenue of $60,000. And that is including looking at our free and reduced students, right? So currently, our enrollment is at 864, and we have 152 free students and 36 reduced students. So like example, let's say you did $100 registration fee for every grade level. With those free and reduced, we're looking at a revenue of $147,120 on a yearly basis.
It's roughly 3 teachers for students.
The next one is just contract management. And this is a real ongoing practice. A conversation that happened at the finance planning task force was just like, when do we go out for bid? For instance, we contract food service. Like, how often do we do that? Do we go out open for bid? Are we picking the best contract? So that's just an ongoing practice that when we have vendors or contracts that we have to go to, that we will follow a bidding process to make sure that we are getting the best deal possible. And then lastly is to really aggressively pursue Medicaid and Medicare reimbursement for special education services, and then explore any additional grant opportunities that we have. And that's something that we'll be diving really into and making sure that we do capture all of those funds. Focus area 4 was targeted savings and revenue. So one of them was a conversation about collection procedure. So there's, twofold. One, you ask people for registration fees or lunch fees, but then you have to collect them. And so if we're not collecting them, or if people aren't paying them, what do we need to do? And so that was what we were talking about. Because currently we sit at a deficit in our lunch fund of $24,417. So those are fees that have not been paid by current families in the district. And so we talked about how do we go about ensuring that we're getting that, also ensuring that we don't get there. And there was a lot of feedback given to us that we might not be communicating well enough that there is a deficit for families, or we communicate so far in advance that it's hard to then catch up with that. So that's something that we'll be looking at, is what is our communication? How do we ensure that families are paying for that without disrupting students having food, right? Students are gonna get lunch, but we need to work on how we collect those fees. The next one is field trip cost sharing. So to reevaluate field trips and cost sharing. So I have to thank our administrative team. They're amazing, because I was said, hey, I'm really working on how many field trips did we take last year? How much was the registration? How much did we gain? I asked so many questions. And they were rock stars, and we put together a spreadsheet. And so last year we hosted 29 classroom field trips. And then on top of that, we do a trip to Timberley, which is our 6th graders, and then Washington/Springfield every other year. So of those field trips, the cost to the district is $88,551. So I want to break that out a little bit further. The 29 classroom field trips is a total cost last year about $19,000. And the rest is those 2 Timberley and Washington trips. And it's not because students aren't covering the cost. We're paying for teachers to chaperone. And so the cost of chaperones for those 2 trips is $45,000. So those are just the numbers when we were talking about what do we pay for field trips? What are the parents paying? What is the district paying? That's our cost currently. The next one is facility rentals, and this is another one, kind of like registration fees, to look at how are we how are we charging our outside users for the building rentals, for the field rentals? Are we keeping up with inflation? Is it a benefit? Is it not a benefit? And I think kind of looking at what we currently do versus what surrounding districts are doing is not a bad idea to look at that comparison as well. And then the last one is equipment leasing versus buyout, and specifically they were talking about electronics and PCs. And I know this year alone we saved $100,000. I'm staring at Scott so I say it correctly. For refurbished Chromebooks, correct? I said it right, thank you. So we've already started to do that in terms of how do we keep those costs down. But absolutely looking at any way that we can look at equipment, leasing and buyouts. And then the last area really is not money focused, but is really important. It's like the foundation, right? That we have to be committed to communication and transparency moving forward and through this whole process about what's happening. Getting our community involved. We have had them starting to be involved and we need to continue that momentum moving forward. And then looking at, are there alternative revenues, whether that's an ed foundation where a community foundation starts to get together and do some big significant fundraising, it's a hefty lift. And then other board partnerships, just to make sure that the board is checking in on administration, that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's, so we don't end up here in another year, right? That's our goal, not to. So, Jen, to kind of go back to where that identified savings. So the numbers that I talked about, if we were to do all of those things, in that first bucket, we were talking about building reconstruction, reevaluating OQs, class sizes. That is a impact of $1.2 million. The targeted savings in revenue, if we were looking at field trips, I'm trying to remember, it was field trips, administrative raises, and just other spending for recognition, that's about $112,000. So just in those buckets, and we haven't looked at registration fees, we haven't looked at rental fees or any other avenue at this moment. We were able to identify a $1.3 million offset. So lots of information. Really the next steps is board discussion and direction in terms of, what questions more do you have? What things do we want to discuss so that you can tell me what you would like to pursue so that I can really work to put that roadmap together for the board and that we can really then next communicate and engage our community and what that path looks like.
This is incredibly thorough and transparent. Thank you very much for your efforts leading the administration, the University of Architecture and would not have been possible without the task force and everybody that's participated. It's a really amazing effort that came together quickly.
Yeah, I also want to thank Dr. Bailey. He led the task force committee. I mean, he had to be reined in a few times, but that's on a daily basis. But the committee was great. And if you wouldn't mind, if the committee members would stand up, I just want the board to recognize you all for all your time and dedication. We appreciate that. Thank you. So do we want to talk now, or are we thinking you want to kind of soak this in and next month have some further discussion?
that's what I would prefer, especially because we are missing one member and need to appoint another one. I think it's gonna be important to have a full panel discussion.
Yeah, and Dan is in the meetings too, so he can kind of, we're part of it. So yeah, I think having him here would be good, and also just to kind of look over all the numbers and everything like that. Some of it I know, but like, figure out.
I agree. I know that time is of the essence, and so I'm wondering if I need to put it off, but I agree. We need to have full board.
I don't know if you know this answer, but with all of the identified savings that we have, would there still be a potential for needing to have a referendum? With
So-
all of the cuts and everything that we're talking about, would we still have to go out for referendum? Like if we only have enough money saving for like 1 year, I guess. Maybe I'm not answering or asking the question correctly.
Right, so those aren't revenue, right? So that is just cutting, so that would be a one-time cut, right? I'll move over to Dr. Bailey in terms of like then, if we did that and we fulfilled that 1.3, 1.2, that would give us one solid great year, and then where would we be the following year?
Why? It would be the cuts, the effect of the cuts would go on, right? With inflation amortized, it would rise each year, the effect. I think the number we were looking at was 1.8 to $2.2 million structural deficit. So we would still have to figure out, even if we were able to do this, we would have to still figure out another $1 million in either increase in revenue or reductions. This is what she has talked about is not to the bone. While it's not comfortable, it's not to the bone. If we were to go to the bone, we get to 1.8, $2 million, maybe. But if we got there, then we would be balanced. And that balance, as long as we wouldn't go out and hire 4 teachers off the budget or whatever, we would maintain that balance. However, you have a school district to run that's going to need physical plant improvements. You want the freedom to try new programs, perhaps. So maybe that 2.2 million, even if you were to be able to get there, it's not going to rebuild your fund balances so that you can take these, so that you can make improvements or take chances with curriculum or something else, or even follow the trends in curriculum. So I think the first thing that Vicki has to do, and we have to do together, is just kind of give you kind of a menu of how deep do you want to cut, because that's going to determine probably, and then what's your vision for after that, those cuts. Now, if we can't even get close to that, $2 million, then we're probably going to have to do that. But if we can get close, these things tend to have rolling impact. And however, again, what's your vision as far as where do you see the district in 5 to 10 years? What are the, we have Adam, who you met before the board meeting. He's going to he's going to present to you at some point a 5-year plan for our facilities, which we've never had, so that we don't have sewage pumps that are on their last leg or whatever. So these are all things this is why it's so hard to the board members, because there's so many moving pieces. But we're not the only district in this condition. The state of Illinois has a lot of school districts right now that have always been healthy that are in this position. So they're figuring it out, and we can't. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I think just for all of us to keep on the back burner that the decisions that we make for the recommendation to the financial task force will impact our district-wide goals. So when we make these decisions, we need to think about our goals and the sustainability of the health of our district. So we do really not just need to think about 1 year, we need to think about the next 5, 10, and it just needs to be sustainable for all the next people that decide to serve on the board. So they kind of know what to do and to guide our community.
Absolutely, because it is.
I mean, we are the representatives of the community, and what they want is, like, we have to hear what they want and we have to produce that for them.
Are we assessing the risk and liability of the impact of the changes and cuts?
Not, well, we're doing it internally,
Yeah,
but of
Right.
course you're going to have to be
we get a presentation.
They'll let us
doing it
know,
as well.
yeah, once we kind of
Right,
have
that's why I'm asking.
yeah,
More tailored.
more tailored and stuff, and then kind of go from there, and that'll give us probably the answer to your question.
So when you have more direction on, yes, Vicki, please give us a real detail, what would it look like if we moved to a pre-K 8 building? What would it look like if all of our classes were at the max? Then we can really dive in and give those plans to you. Or if there's, let's dive into fees and talk about what the fees look like and spend time really talking about how much we want to potentially do fees, put that together, what would that look like?
I think maybe we need to explore the possibility of having a special meeting.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like there's a lot of talking that needs to get done and
Yeah.
kind of, as you've known for a while, it's not on our side. So I know it's a busy time of the year for everybody, but I think as a board, we need to meet more frequently to tackle this very large trend right now.
And make decisions so that we can keep perpetual motion going. Not just talk about it, be about it.
The other thing to even consider, we were discussing, although the recommendation for referendum is the last, but still potentially engaging the community in referendum talk about whether that is an acceptable option at some point, because let's say we get to the end of the year and we're making cuts, but we still, the following year, it's still not working out as well as planned, and then we have to go there, is engaging from the get-go. Sometimes when they really understand what is going to happen in the school with cuts, referendums look a little bit better. When you start talking about, I have 33 kids in the classroom, I'm not gonna have band or Spanish and X, Y, and Z, that might look different. So I think the more we can talk about really specifically what that looks like to get to 2.2 or 1.8 without a referendum, and communicating that very clearly, but still engaging in, is this still what the community wants and feels is acceptable? Or are we talking about a referendum at a lower ask and still some cuts, but not as cut? I think
That's why
kind
I
of
asked
doing
about
things simultaneously might not be a bad idea.
But that's why I asked about the risk, because it's hard to make a decision about something without understanding what the risk of the implementation is gonna be.
I do think, though, there's a way that we can narrow, the menu and ask for more information before we then make a full decision.
Right, that's exactly, we're saying the same thing.
I think ultimately your decision is gonna be multi-tracked. You're gonna be interchanging options and things, so that's the job ahead of you.
I agree that additional meetings is important in this task that we are facing. Is that something that we would like to discuss and set right now?
Yeah. I don't know if we should send them right now. I mean, all we have to do is what, 24 hours notice.
Yeah.
So I think we can maybe circulate a calendar and,
Yeah, we can throw some dates out.
Yeah.
And so that. Okay, great.
Next, just some upcoming dates and events to keep everyone in the loop. We have tomorrow, Meet the Teacher and Supply Drop-Off, and then our first day of school is on Wednesday. The week of August 24th, athletic competitions begin. And another plug for my Grounds for Conversation begin August 24th and 26th. Picture Day is September 2nd. No school on September 7th, and then our next board meeting is September 21st. And then, of course, I always like to end with a note of gratitude, and I already said thank you, but one more time to our financial task force over the 6 meetings. They examined bond structures, tax history, per pupil spending. They probably didn't know the things they didn't know, and now they're super educated about finances. But I'm really proud of the hard conversations they had, and thank you so much for your time and dedication.
Yeah, it was very interesting and very good conversations and helpful in other ways from different areas and aspects of, outside world coming together and trying to learn those things and then bringing your knowledge and information about those finances in other ways, which kind of helped us, I think, kind of get to some of the avenues that we did. Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Any final questions or comments on the presentation? Okay, the board will be reconvening to closed session to finalize things before the meeting. We will come back for open session and then close out for the evening, and so no action will be taken after closed session. May I have a motion to go into executive session at 8:12 p.m. for the consideration of matters exempted under the Illinois Open Meetings Act as specified on the agenda?
Second.
Roll call.
Jennifer Manola,
Yes.
Nicole Sparks,
yes.
Kristen Becker,
Yes.
Stephanie House,
Yes.
Josie Shattuck,
Yes.
motion carried.
And so that concludes the public portion of the meeting tonight. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah.
Did very well.